Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so before, could you give us maybe a general overview of like your politics? Like, what would you identify as? Like, if
Me, yeah, yeah. I consider myself like a conservative liberal, or at least a centrist in that sense.
okay,
Like, for example, I believe that some of the lessons taught by traditions should be saved, obviously, but I do believe in the right for everyone to have equal opportunity and freedom of choice. But all because of that, I don't think we should forget about what is important for the future, being like children and parental roles, which I feel as if modern feminism is fighting against, in a sense.
all right, I see. Okay, so does that mean so you would be against like general when you like let's say like more than feminism to make such many claims, for example, about the patriarchy being systematically oppressive against men. So one of the claims they make about it is like the gender equality.
Now,
You don't agree?
regarding, well, it's hard to say because regarding the validity of some of their claims regarding stuff like the wage gap in the modern day, or whether it's systematic, there can be evidence for or against, but generally I've seen the wage gap argument debunked a bunch of times as generally doesn't take into account things like time off, quality work, uh, and what degree of experience they have. Because, as you gain more experience, you gain more money, which can be one of the reasons why. In the end, there needs to be a more detailed analysis of it, and if it is a case of genuine workplace sexism, then without a doubt, I'm on the feminist side on that. It should be completely unbiased on what gender you are. However, if it's on what experience you have, how long you've been working there, or how good you are at the job, then without a doubt, the person with more experience should deserve more money.
Yeah, I would as well. I would see that as well. The stats as in like that males are more likely to ask for a pay rise than compared to females, or like
Oh, oh, oh yeah.
the males are more likely to major in high-paying jobs in like STEM fields, because like
Uh, Now, see, here's the thing about that, because you don't know whether it's sexism or whether it's just a genuine, like, choice among women, because, generally, guys are less of people's, they're less people focused, I'd say. Like, guys aren't as open as women are. And if you look at something like medicine, women tend to be getting more placements than men on average. However, there's also quite a lot of nurses, like more female nurses than men. Should be told, really, with that, I do think it's more of a case of just general, like, choices which gender gravitates towards, rather than sexism in the workplace.
yeah, I would I would say there's like psychological interest differences between like men and
Oh,
women.
oh yeah, without a doubt. Because without a doubt, there's going to be psychological differences in general between men and women. Like, that's good.
Yeah, I would agree there are differences as in like there was a survey. Then they asked like men and women, would you be in a room like talking to someone, or would you be in a room like taking parts apart, like machinery apart, and fixing them and figuring out how it works? And they figure out like men were more likely to choose to be in the room and figuring out like parts of a machine work, while females are
Yeah,
more likely to want to socialize.
yeah, exactly. It's just one of those like natural differences between men and women. You could argue that is a cultural problem or whether it's a genetic problem, but either way, those differences exist,
Yeah,
and I don't think it's yeah, I don't think it's fair to chastise the number of a gender in a certain field, because like look at male builders compared to female. Male builders just outweigh like female builders, but if you look at nurses, there's going to be way more. And again, that could be just genuine gravitation, just a genuine gravitation towards a career which is just more suiting for the gender.
Yeah, you mentioned
Yeah.
you mentioned how like there could be cultural differences. I would say like
Yeah.
that could be true, but I do feel like there's some like minor evidence in the both side. The evidence that says that there's just natural differences, like those like even if you were to look at baby girls and like baby boys, like just few months old, you will find like girls like staring at people's faces more directly, more often than like baby boys would be staring at like watches or like some Lego piece or tools. That would suggest that these differences are like natural instead of cultural.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get me wrong, they're not set in stone. Everyone should have the right to choose whatever they want. I'm just saying that people shouldn't be surprised if there is a high number of gender in this field compared to another.
But
And that's where my beef with modern day feminism comes in. Because I'm all for equality. Like, if you were to take me back to feminism of the old days, I'd be all for it. But my problem with this modern day feminism is that it appears to less favour one's freedom to choose, but rather, say, at home or wanting a family, like something more basis, which everyone is allowed to have their opinions, obviously, but the problem is that it seems like it's damn near attacking them. For example, look on Twitter. When apparently, I remember this a while ago, but sadly I can't bring it up for the life of me, so I apologise for this. But I remember a woman on Twitter posted about being a trad wife, someone who works at home, all that stuff. And what happened was that in the comments, she just got absolutely shit on by people who claimed they were feminists and such, by saying stuff like you're feeding into the patriarchy, or you're not a real woman, or something like that. Like, generally, they just hated this woman for genuinely wanting to be a stay-at-home mother, which I just think is ridiculous.
yeah, I would agree. This other day, I also saw there's some TikTok. It was about this woman who was like making this TikTok about she's like packing her husband's lunch, and like at the comments, like you get like the same thing happen. Like people are going like, this isn't a good relationship. There's an imbalance there, but it's like when I'm reading his comments, it's like how these people know like exactly how these relationships are playing out? Just because you're making a lunch doesn't mean your husband has more power. Like you know how
exactly
going on, right?
Yeah. It's almost hard to say, but I say that generally because women are more social than men. Like, social pressure gets to them more, which is a very big problem, especially in the feminist community, because that pressure is just going to be way more detrimental to one's beliefs than say a guy like. So essentially, like, the way that this is going, it'll be like a snowball effect is what I'm on about. So like, as more women are pressured into getting more jobs in companies and businesses, more women are going to be, they're going to feel like less willing to look after children or have children and such, which I think is a bit of a problem. Not a lot. And let me clarify something here. I'm gonna segue into another topic right now, but I want to go over like parental roles and gender roles.
Sure. We can get into that.
Yeah. Basically, what I think is this: I don't believe that there should be a gender role when it comes to something like looking after a child, but I do believe there should be parental roles. Like, one person teaches a child a certain way of thinking things or how to feel about things, and then if you haven't chosen that, and their child can build upon those differences, find out who they are. Which, don't get me wrong, is fine as well. It's just that someone needs to stay home and look after the kids. But the problem is that there's more pressure on everyone to be working in companies, like in the workplace, especially like from feminism, and because it's attacking like females for choosing to stay at home, then that in my opinion is just going to be detrimental to a child's upbringing, which is a very big problem.
Yeah, let me give you like example. Like, let's say I feel like I do agree with you. Like, it's a good idea if like at least one parent is home, because it's like let's say like when like both parents are like going to work and they come home like they're very tired, they're less likely to help a little kid with his homework. If it needs to wait, they might want to sleep, and like that might cause. Let's say, but like on the other hand, if there's just like a parent home like all the time, like the little kid will always have that, let's say, sport to do, like homework or any like I don't know, emotional task or daily tasks to learn them.
Yeah,
because
I just think sorry, continue.
Oh yeah, I also saw the statistics, but it's like I don't know how valid they are, but it's like statistically, like the kids who are raised in a single parent family, like on average, are seen as like doing worse than kids who were like raised in a dual parent family.
Yeah, that's my problem as well. That's what I mean. It's just It's just that I feel like both parents can work. It's just that it needs to be like a swap system. Like one person works, the other stays at home, and then they swap. That's how it should be. If one parent just works, then they're going to miss out on a valuable relationship with their kids, which without a doubt is a problem.
What he's saying is true. Also, like another solution could be like one parent just decides to like work less. Like I feel like more women like decide to work like under less hours because they might want to go to the kids' piano lessons or like whatever. Because like even when like people parents take what's it called, like maternity and like paternity leave, mothers like always take the longer one compared to like fathers.
But without that, women have it tougher, like in anywhere, just socially, workplace and stuff, because they have lots to deal with. I'd say, which because of that, generally, I prefer it if I was working and say my wife or someone was at home looking after the kid, which I'd be happy with, because it would certainly make my wife's life easier. But if she wants to go ahead and work, I'll take over for her.
Yeah.
But there's no point. Yeah. Because without that, I want to spend time with my kid as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Especially like I feel like the father involvement in like this like new generation is like decreasing because of single motherhood, and like it's always obviously causing like a lot of problems. Like I don't know, they're probably more likely to like actually commit crime. So like to tell like the background story of this, it's like like if naturally in cases it's like the mother is gotta be more empathetic. So like let's say the mother is single, like single mother, is always like in a way gonna be thinking like what does the kid want, and like if she's thinking that all the time, then the kid eventually would realize and start thinking what the kid wants, and be less likely to compromise in situations. You get what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Alright.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. As I was saying, I blame is it a rising rate? Well, either way, the current rate of absent fathers in homes on culture, and I think a good example would be among Black Americans, because if you look at statistics, only 20% of Black Americans are in a family. Like, they have a stable family with both parents, which is ridiculous. And if you look back in the past, with like the 90s, I believe, mid 90s ish, that statistic was the complete opposite. It was 80% of Black Americans had a family, like a full family. So you gotta wonder what the hell went wrong there to completely flip the statistics upside down. And I know this is a bit one-sided blame and such, what I'm about to say, but I do think that some of the moves by the Democrats to fund, stimulus checks and all that to be consistent for African Americans on average, I think that has played a large role within, the construction of a stable family. Sorry if I'm ranting, by the way. Feel free to interject at any time. But
Okay, so yeah, I would let's say if you look at like patterns, like you mentioned, African Americans, if they're having, let's say, to be honest, they're having the worst time compared to every other race in the U.S. And like, yeah, and also I would say there's a common occurrence. There's a pattern like they're doing worse in education. They're doing worse in. I mean, they're more likely to commit crimes, and I feel like if you were to look at the pattern of like single mothers, and you realize the Asians had the East Asians had the lowest single motherhood rate, and they're getting the most highest jobs. They're getting the best scores in education, and you look at what you get what the pattern talk about.
Yeah, exactly. They're doing good, obviously, but I really do think that it is a cultural problem. And let me clarify something here about this. I know that most right-wingers like to joke about the 83 IQ mark, which hasn't increased over 100 years. I don't believe that's the case. That's obviously just, a fucking excuse to blame it, which wouldn't make sense, especially considering that during the 1950s it was the complete opposite. So without a doubt, that belief that some right-wingers have just doesn't hold up.
Yeah.
But I do. Yeah.
I would agree.
You see,
on that.
Yeah. Allow me to explain here, because I feel like not people realise this, but say you had a child, look at a middle class family. You got a child that they're normally spoiled, they get whatever they want from mommy and daddy, and they live off their dad's credit card, generic shit. What I believe in something which I don't really know the name of, but what I consider as the fat cat theory, where essentially if you give a child everything they want, they'll have no gratification and no need to improve or get better at anything, because why should they, when they have everything they need? And I think that's the problem with what's happening within, I will say this, probably Democrat cities, because, your Africans, blacks in the Democrat, states, because they're constantly getting stimulus checks and stuff, which, don't get me wrong, I'm all for stimulus checks if someone is really in need of it. Say a dude had both his arms blown off, that's a fine. But the problem is that because of these stimulus checks, I believe that because they have no real need to earn more money, why should they bother?